Good morning, students. Hope you are doing well. Today we will move on to the second session of AutoCAD 3D. I hope that you have already gone through the first session regarding AutoCAD 3D. And today we will discuss about some broader topics in regards to the same. Okay. So what I have done here is I have converted the workspace into 3D modeling from drafting and annotations, because as all of you know that when you are working in AutoCAD 3D, then you have to convert this into 3D modeling from this workspace settings. Okay, so for the first thing that you are doing here is converting your workspace to 3D modeling from drafting and annotations. Okay, now I will be giving you some demonstration regarding some other comments and some other aspects that you have to know before you work on AutoCAD 3D. So for the demonstration, let us take an limit of, okay, so the limits let us set these limits to, first the lower left corner will be at 0,0 and the upper right corner will be at suppose 200, 200. This is an arbitrary one, you can take it as per your own wish. Okay, so I have set my limits, and as you can see that I have already got the 3D interface in the ribbon also. So what I am doing here is I will move this to southwest isometric or southeast isometric, you can give it. Suppose you are in southeast isometric. Okay, so this is southeast isometric, this is southwest isometric. I will keep this in southeast isometric. Okay, so in southeast isometric, let us first draw a rectangle. So I will draw a rectangle here, since as suppose the length as suppose 80 and the width as suppose 150. Okay, so here we have got the rectangle in the XY plane. As you can see that whatever we will draw, it will be drawn on XY plane, and whatever we will produce or extrude in 3D, that will be along the Z axis or the Z axis that is specified here. The orientation is like this. This is the X axis, this is the Y axis, and this is the Z axis, and this is the default coordinate that you are getting here. Okay, so as you can see here that our length is 80 and the width is 150 that I have taken here. Okay, so what I will do is I will extrude this particular object. I'll extrude this object here. So it's asking me select the object to extrude. So I will select this rectangle, and you have to keep one thing in mind, that when you are extruding a 2D object to a 3D one, you must have a clear conception that after extrusion how the object will look like. Here, if you are extruding this rectangle to a certain height, it will look like a rectangular block, right? Suppose you are extruding a circle to a certain height, it will look like a cylinder. So these things, that when you are converting a 2D object in a 3D object, how it will look like, how the transformation will look like, that the conception should be clear in front of you. That should be clear in your mind. Okay, so for this I have selected the rectangular object, and if I extrude this, I have selected the object and I click on enter, and as you can see that it is asking me the height through which I want to extrude. So I'll keep the height to be suppose 80. Okay, so as you can see that I have already extruded the object. I can keep the grid off, so I'll keep the grid off for the time being, and as you can see, this is our object. I can bring and change the view of the object at any point of time. Currently it is in 2D wireframe, so I am changing it to suppose a realistic one. So if you change this to a realistic one, you can see that the object is looking like this. Okay, so it's very easy, and you can understand that we have already converted a rectangle into a rectangular block with the help of this extrude command. Now in extrude command there are many options available. As you can see, extrude, loft, revolve and sweep. These other options we will discuss in the next tutorial. Okay, so as you can see here, in the last tutorial or in the last video, I have discussed about some aspects, visualizing aspects in AutoCAD 3D. So here what I can do is I have an option here, restore viewpoint, viewport configuration, view cube, steering wheels, navigation bar. So from viewport configuration list, there are many options available, and I can custom my viewport configuration. Okay, suppose if I want to keep this a single, then this default view will be available into your screen. Suppose I convert this to 2, vertical, click on this, and as you can see we are getting two different representation of the single object. Okay, now what is the use of this? You can actually click on these viewports and select the viewports and work on it. For example, if I want to get the right view of this object, I can click here, so automatically, as you can see, the right view of the object will be shown here, and this object is no different from this object. These two objects are same objects, but we are getting two different representation or two different views of the single object in two different viewports, right? So if you want to work on this, you can click on this and this viewport will be selected. You can zoom in, you can pan in, and you can work on the same. For example, if I want to create something here, it will be automatically displayed over in the viewport, because as I have already said that these two objects are no different. These two objects are single object, right? So like this, you can go to this option, you can change the viewport configuration, you can keep it like this. There will be, as I have selected, two vertical and one horizontal viewport. So as you can see, three different views of the object can be clearly seen over here. Okay, so that is understandable. For the time being, I will keep this to a single one, and as you can see, the single representation of the object in southeast isometry has been created, right? So that's about the viewports. So what we will do here is, suppose I want to make something a circle on this particular face. Okay, so for that, what I will select the circle command. I will go to the center radius option. I want to select it from the center of this I mean the centroid of this rectangular part, right? I have to track the center. So if I want to track the center here, then as you can see, the ortho is off, so I'll keep the ortho on. What I can do is I will go to this particular customization option and I will select on 3D object snap. And as soon as you click on 3D object snap, as you can see, the 3D object snap option is coming and appearing here. So click this on and click on this drop up, and if I select the midpoint on an edge, this will automatically give you, so I'll select the center radius option, this will automatically track the center point of that particular face. So if I click on this point and I want to draw a circle here, but again we are facing another difficulty, that I want to draw this circle on this particular face of the object, but currently it is drawn in the XY plane. So as I have already said, that whatever 2D objects you will draw, that will be drawn in the XY plane only. So what is the solution? The solution is you have to align the XY plane on that particular face in order to draw the 2D object. So if I want to draw this circle on this particular face of this rectangle, of this rectangular block, this particular face, then I have to change the XY plane and align with this rectangular face. So how can I align this? I'll go to this visualize option, and I have got one interesting option here, that is 3 point. So I will select on this 3 point, and I can actually there are many options available here. You can select any one of the option. Day by day when we discuss, we will be discussing about other options. So for currently I am selecting this 3 point option. And now what it is asking me, it is asking me to select the origin point. So what is the origin point? It is the intersection of X and Y. So I want the circle to be drawn on this face, so I will select on this point as the origin, I mean the x-axis along this line, and the y-axis along this line. Okay, so if I align this, you can clearly see that the x and y-axis has been aligned on this particular face of the object. Okay, so one thing I will do here is I will click on Control 1 in order to select the quick properties option. I will change the color. So I will change the color from here. So I am changing it to, for example, I will changing it to, selecting the color, I can change it to suppose this color. Okay, and I will draw the circle from here. Okay, so center radius. Now as you can see, when you track the center point here, you can actually draw the circle on this particular face. So currently I will set this as 30. Okay, the radius as 30. Click on enter, and as you can see that we have drawn a circle at this particular point, that is from the centroid of this rectangular part. Okay, so if I use the offset option, let us make the object interesting. So I will select on the offset option, and I will give the offset distance to be suppose 10. Okay, so I am selecting this object and I will click on the inner portion in order to create another circle at an offset distance of 10. Okay, so we have got a profiles which looks something like this. Okay, now these two circles that I have drawn here, these are not part of the 3D object. These are only two-dimensional objects which are drawn on the faces of that particular 3D object. Okay, I mean here the face is this rectangular face. Okay, so now if I want to extrude this particular object, so I'll select on this extrude option. Okay, and suppose I am selecting this object as well as this object. I want both these 2D profiles to be extruded at a particular distance, so I will select on enter. Now as I have already said, tell me that these two objects will be extruded along which direction. It will be obviously extruded along the z-axis. So z-axis is pointing perpendicular to the xy plane. So I will click on enter, and as you can see that the object is extruded along the z-axis. So keep one thing in your mind, that if you are drawing something, if you are drawing a 2D representation, it will be drawn on xy plane. Whatever you are producing or extruding, that will be extruded along the z-axis. Okay, so if I give this length to be suppose 40. Okay, so I have got an interesting profile which I can orbit it. I can actually orbit it, and I can see that the profile looks like this. Okay, I will be discussing about three different options. Okay, the three different options are: one is union option. Union means when you want to join two 3D objects, then that we will use the union command. Okay, the second option, subtraction command, when you want to subtract one 3D object from the other. Okay, and the third one is intersection. Intersection means when two 3D objects are combined or unioned, then the portion which is common will only remain and the other parts will be removed. Okay, the fourth one is interference. Okay, so in interference option, when you are combining two 3D objects, then along with the intersection part, the other parts of the object will be also available. Okay, so here what I want to do is I want to subtract the inner portion from the outer portion. So I will use the subtract command, subtr. So as you can see, subtract command has come and appeared here. I will click on the subtract option. I will select on this bigger cylinder, click on enter, and I will select the second one, which is this particular one. You have to properly select it. I have selected this. I have clicked on enter. Okay, so as you can see clearly that the object has been, that profile has been erased or subtracted from the other 3D object. Okay, now if I use the union command, see what happens. If I use the union command here, union command, why I am using this union command, that has to be clear. If you click on this 3D object, then only this rectangular block is getting selected. If you select on this created object, then only this object is getting selected. So these two objects are separate objects, just like join command that we have used in AutoCAD 2D. Here we are using the union command. So if I type union here, union command, click on enter, select the first object, this is the rectangular block, click on enter, and union, enter the first object and the second object, click on enter. Okay, so if you bring your cursor near this any one solid part, you can see now both of these objects are a single object. Okay, what I can do here is I will again bring this to the southeast isometric option, and suppose I want to fillet the edges of this part. What is filleting? Making the surface smooth. So I can use the fillet option. Where is the fillet option? This is the fillet option. I click on this fillet option, and it is asking me to select the first object. So I will select this edge option. Okay, so I have clicked on this. As you can see, that edge has been selected. I will click on enter. Now it's asking me for the filleting radius. So I will give the radius as suppose 5. Okay, enter. I have already selected the edge. So click on enter, and as you can see that the surface is a smoother one. See, it has got a good profile, and the surface is now a smooth one. Okay, similarly if you want to smooth the inner part of the circle also, so I will click on escape. I'll select on this option, and I will click on enter, because I have already given the fillet radius to be 5, so I will select on enter, and the edge has already been selected. Click on enter again, and as you can see, we have already got another interesting object created here where the edges are smooth. Okay, now you can actually edit a solid object from this particular option available here in the panel section. Okay, in the ribbon in this panel section, you can use this solid editing option for editing a 3D object. Okay, so in solid editing option, you have got two options here. One is by working on the edges. If you click on this option, there are many options available or in a drop down menu where you can actually edit on the edges of the 3D object. The second one is you can work on the faces. Okay, so you can see extrude faces, taper faces, move faces, copy faces, offset faces, and the third one is you can work on the solid object itself. Okay, so you can use any one of these options in order to edit a solid in 3D. Okay, so for example, if I am using this face option here, so if I want to extrude a face, so let us draw something. Let us draw a rectangle here. So I want to give the first corner of the rectangle at this point and the second corner of the rectangle. Okay, so what is the problem that we are facing here? See, the rectangle is drawn in the XY plane, so I have to again align the XY plane in this particular face. So for that, I will go where? I will go to this visualize option available here. I will go to this 3-point option, and I will specify the first origin point here. Along this direction, I will specify the x-axis, and along this direction, I will specify the y-axis, and automatically the z-axis is perpendicular. Okay, now I can actually move this UCS. You can move it like this, so it will be aligned. Okay, there will be no change in the orientation of the UCS. So I will select go to this home option, and I will select a rectangle, and I will draw a rectangle here by selecting one point. And as you can clearly see that now the rectangle is getting drawn on that particular face where I have aligned the x and y axis. I'll click on these 2 points and I have drawn a rectangle here. Okay, now what I will do is I will suppose offset this. So I will offset this, and I will specify the offset distance to be suppose 10 again, and I will select this. Okay, so select the object to offset. Okay, so I will change this to 2D wireframe, and as you can see here that in 2D wireframe it will be easy for me to select the offset. So select the object, offset distance is 10, select the object. So I will click on this point, and as you can see I have offsetted that particular rectangle. Okay, I want to delete this rectangle now, so I am deleting this. Again, I will go back to the realistic option, and as you can see that we have already drawn this rectangle. Now this is a 2D object that I have drawn on this face. Now you can actually imprint this object on this particular face. How? There is an option for imprint here. So what it says is imprints 2D geometry on a 3D solid, creating additional edges on the planar face. Now when you select on this, the edge will not be selected. Okay, why? Because this is only a 2D object. So I will click on this imprint option. So here it is how it works. That is when you select on this imprint option, okay, it is asking me to select the solid object. So this is the solid object. Click on this, then again click on this profile which you want to imprint. So you click on this. It is asking me to select the source object. Yes, I want to select the source object. Which one is the source object? It is this particular rectangle that I have drawn here. So I want to delete the source object. So for that I will click on Y. Okay, enter. Okay, so as I have selected the source object, now let us go back to the realistic view. And as you can see clearly that now when you bring the cursor, the 2D object is gone, but there is an imprint here in the 3D object which is similar to the 2D rectangle that I have created previously. So for using this option, what is the usefulness is that I can now go to this edge option. If I can actually extrude this face now, because this is an imprint now, so I'll extrude this face and I'll select this face suppose, and I can click on enter, and if I give the specific extrusion height, suppose I give this to be 50. Okay, enter. and it's asking me for the taper angle. So if I want to give a taper, what is a taper? It is an angle created to the vertical. So if I keep the taper angle to be suppose 15, click on enter, and as you can see at 15-degree angle it has been created. So enter, I will again click on enter and enter the solid editing option. I will click on exit. Okay, so as you can see that I have already created something like this, and it looks nice. So you can actually again use the imprint option here, and you can actually edit it, or what you can do is, this is the object to imprint. So I have clicked on this, select and 3D solid, click on this. Okay, then you click on this and delete the source object. Yes, I want to delete it, enter. Okay, so the imprint has been properly created. I want to delete this rectangle. Okay, I can go to this extrude face option because I have created a face here, so I will select on this face. Okay, and click on enter. Now we are extruding the face. Okay, so the height of the extrusion, if I consider to be suppose 30. Okay, let us give this as -30, so it will be the extrusion will be inside, so -30. Okay, on the other side, enter. It is asking me for the taper angle, so if I give the taper angle to be suppose 15 only, so I will click on enter again, and I will again click on enter, again click on enter. So if you now actually orbit this, you can see that we have created an interesting profile in 3D. Okay, so today up to this, hope you have found this particular session interesting, and in the next video we will be discussing about some other 3D options. So thank you all, thanks.